Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Um, so we were looking at the four kingdoms of Daniel. And as we finished our last lesson, we saw that the four animals or beasts that came up out of the strife of nations in Daniel chapter 7, we know representing Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome. We saw how in Revelation 13, these four come together to make the last beast that is upon the earth that controls the United States from Rome. The last of the four beasts is the controlling power, that is Rome. It is in Rome's head that we saw in Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, and as well as Revelation 13, verse 1, we saw the 10 horns, right? It was in that one. So the controlling power is Rome, but the influence of the other pagan nations is in Rome. That is why we know Christianity, which was created by the Romish, created by the sons of Japhet. Christianity was not created by the Hebrews. It did not come from Messiah. It was created by Constantine, a Roman emperor. That is why it contains so much paganism, because it is a conglomeration of these pagan practices from these pagan nations of the past. So we saw the worship style, whereas you're worshiping the sun with the Sunday law, you worship in the astrology with the stars, you worship in the man's philosophy. All that's Babylonian and Egyptian. That's Hamitic. Right? That's Hamitic. Mizraim and Ham were sons. Mizraim and Nimrod were children of Ham. All right. And so we know that these religious practices of worshiping the sun and the stars, and that comes from Ham. Then we see the infallibility doctrine, where the Roman Catholic Church says it's never erred nor ever will err, doesn't admit to any mistakes. And in fact, it believes that it's God in that regard, and they got that from the Medes and the Persians. Okay. Then we know that Greece came up with this system of philosophy that they basically stole from the Egyptians, from Kemet. Then they changed the name of the city even from Kemet to Alexandria. If you notice, y'all ever heard of Alexandria, Egypt? Y'all ever heard of Alexandria, Egypt? It wasn't always called Alexandria. Notice the name Alexandria after Alexander the Great, because they came down there, they stole philosophy, they stole mathematics, they stole knowledge from the ancient Egyptians and try to give themselves credit for it. And then they created this whole system of education where you get degrees. Oh yeah, I think Alexandria is one of the capitals of Egypt. I'm not sure. But Alexandria, Egypt, which the name used to be called Kemet. And they changed it to Alexandria after Alexander the Great, who came down there and took over. Yeah. And Egypt basically became one of the territories of the Greek Empire, which later became the Roman Empire. So they took the education system from the Greeks, where we got system of degrees and such. And so you have all of that together that now has what we call Babylon. You have an education, political, religious, and business system that's after Babylon's. It's the Babylonian image, the modern Babylon. And now you have the United States of America that is the visible head of this Babylonian empire, but is really being controlled by Rome. And now we're going to look at how and why we know Rome is controlling, aside from what we've already seen, where we saw Nebuchadnezzar's image and we saw the iron already all the way down into the feet and the toes, where the iron represented Rome, and that it was only destroyed once the stone that was cut out of the mountain with our hands destroyed it, which is the Messiah's kingdom. Okay. So now let's go back to Daniel 7, and we're going to look at that fourth beast very closely, because remember, let's look at Daniel 7:7, which is where we finished off. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7 is where we finished off. This is the fourth beast, the fourth animal that came up out of the strife, representing Rome. Notice what it says. And after this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So we saw that this particular empire, the Roman one, was to be different. The word diverse means different. It's different from all the three empires that were before. So although the three empires before have elements in this fourth one is different from all the others. And the Bible is going to show us why it's different in a moment. But also notice that in this fourth one were 10 horns, 10 points of power, 10 points or divisions of its power in the Roman Empire. Okay? So let's look at this. Daniel chapter 7, let's look at verse 8, because it's going to give us a hint about why the fourth one is different from the other three. Okay? Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things. So now you have a difference here. It says, in the 10 horns of the fourth beast, there was a little horn. And this little horn caused 3 of the 10 to be plucked up, so that there were 7 left. Okay? And this little horn that caused 3 of the other powers to be plucked up, it had eyes like a man and spoke great things. Spoke great things. When it says great things, that does not mean good things. I want to make sure we understand. When it says that this horn had eyes of a man and spoke great things, it's not talking about great like wonderful, like beautiful, like righteous. Yeah, incredible. That's what it's incredible. Like you can't believe that's coming out of his mouth. That type of thing. Like you can't believe he's gonna talk that much ish. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah, like that. Like he popping off. He popping off. You know what I mean? So this little horn talking a lot of smack. Well, what is he talking? Well, we're going to skip a little bit. I'm going to come back to verse 9 in a moment, but we're going to skip a little ahead and focus on this little horn, because Daniel was also focused on this little horn. And Daniel wanted to know more about this fourth beast. Okay? Let's start at verse 17 and go to verse 23. Actually, yeah, for now, from 17 to 23, notice what it said. These great beasts, again, we read this earlier, which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Same thing Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, see, the fourth one had all 10 horns in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn, that's the little horn, that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn, that is the little horn, made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and it shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. Now, let's Stop right here. So you see that that little horn comes up, and in the beginning it said it spoke great things, but now it said he spake very great things, and he made war with the saints of Yah and prevailed against the saints of Yah. Okay, he made war with the saints of Yah and prevailed against the saints of Yah. This little horn. All right, now this is showing us where all our problems are coming from. Okay, where the devil is directing our. Okay, so now it's coming out of Rome. It's a little horn, and it's going against the saints of Yah. Now it's a religious thing. It's more than just military and government, as all these other ones. See, Babylon, Media, Persia, and Greece, that was military and government, right? This is more than that. This becomes now religious. The saints of Yah are always the children of Israel. Are you following me? Testing, 1, 2, 3. They're always the children of Israel. The saints of Yah are always the children of Israel. Okay? So this little horn is making war against the Most High's children, his chosen people. He's at war with them. Well, we can see that, can't we? I mean, we can see it, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. We can see it. So now, see, and I want you to understand, these are Israelites. So he's at war with the Israelites and with anybody that would join the Israelites. He's at war. Okay, so if you're an Israelite by blood, he hates you and he wants to destroy you. And if you come in by faith and you become grafted into the Israelite tree, he hates you and he wants to destroy you. Okay, now history shows us that he's done just that, right? He's enslaved, manipulated, exploited to this very day in which I am talking to you. He is enslaving, manipulating, and seeking to destroy all the Hebrew males. Is that true or not? Am I making that up, or do you actually see that? Yes, it's pretty obvious. Pretty obvious. Now, but it's not only the saints. It's not only the saints. Notice what it said there. Verse 23. Notice it said verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour. How much of the earth is this fourth beast going to take over? How much of the earth does it take over? How much did it say? That's right. It said the whole earth, and tread it down and break it in pieces. That is, divide it up. When you say break it in pieces, it is breaking it into little pieces, but it's dividing it up for gain. Daniel 11 tells us that. They shall divide the land for gain. Notice Daniel chapter 11, verse 39. Daniel 11, verse 39. Notice what it says, Daniel 11, 39. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gains. He's breaking it in pieces so that he owns it. Divide and conquer. Y'all heard of that, right? Divide and conquer. That's what they do. Okay. Okay. So now we know that this fourth beast is going to start off like the others, but then because of this little horn, it's going to become a religious power based in Rome that wants to destroy the saints of Yah, wants to destroy the saints and anyone associated with the saints. Okay? But we're not finished. Daniel 7, verse 24 and 25 and 26. Actually, from 24 down to 27. Okay? Daniel 7, 24 to 27. Notice what it says. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom, that is Rome, are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given unto the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. There you go. So this is showing us, again, it's showing us Revelation chapter 19 is showing us how the Messiah is going to come and destroy him. And it also tells he's going to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Okay. And it also showing us he tried to change the times and laws. Times meaning years. How does he change the years? Well, what do we have? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, right? Right? Where those names come from? Rome. Rome. The beginning of the year in the Bible is in April, or the time we call April, but we don't celebrate it then. We celebrate the new year in January. Who gave us that? Rome. You got a whole religion called Christianity where they're telling you, most of them telling you the law is done away with. Who does that? Rome. You got a whole religion called Judaism, ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. They run all kind of money and all kind of television stations and media. Who controls them? Who do they bow to? Rome. Whose ring do they kiss? Rome. There you go. So you can see, brothers and sisters, this is happening right in front of us. This is not something that's happening in the future. It's happening right now. You can see it. Okay? In the future, though, it tells us the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. And then it says that this entity was allowed to get away with this stuff until the time until the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. See, we living in that time right now. The time, and this is coinciding. Listen carefully to me now. This is coinciding with the development, seal, and rise of the 144,000. This is all coinciding with the development and sealing and rising of the 144,000. When I say rising, I'm not talking about rising in terms of this earth, wealth and money and power in this earth. I'm talking about rising in terms of the message, the final message of warning that's warning the earth of the destruction that's coming when those angels let loose of them 4 winds. That's what I'm talking. All of it coincides together. That's right. So now we know why the 4th beast was diverse from the other 3, because this one had a spiritual aspect to it that was higher. I mean, you know, in Babylon, they had deep spiritual aspect because they were into, astrology. They were into magic. They were into, worshiping of the sun, different things. They were deep into that. But this 4th beast takes it to a new level. Takes it to a new level. And as Babylon had basically North Africa, the Middle East, India, what is now India, and what is now Iraq, it had all of that. This 4th beast has the entire earth, like every nation under the planet. Like you can't go nowhere. You can't go nowhere in Africa, Central America, Australia, Asia, and think you escaping. Every place you go, Rome is there in one form or another, either as Muslims, because Rome controls them too, or as Buddhists because it controls them too, or as Christians because it controls them too. Judaism, it controls them too. Doesn't matter where you go, you in Babylon. Doesn't matter where you go. That's why it said it shall, what did it say? It said it shall be diverse from all kingdoms and shall devour the whole earth. That's everything. See, the game is like I said, the game is coming up to the climax right now, because it's really climactic right now. That we talk about, this last recession we had in 2008, this bad one that was really like a depression, right? They call it the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. If you recall, that was a worldwide recession. That wasn't just like affecting the United States. That was a worldwide recession. That affected all the nations on the earth. You think that was accidental? You think they did that accidentally? Like they just made a mistake with the economy? No, it's all planned, brothers and sisters. It's planned. It's planned. Wait. Let me show you how insidiously deep and well laid the plans are. See, while we're sitting here watching reality TV and getting our minds all messed up, and these so-called Christian churches jumping up and down, making all this stupid noise and giving money to these so-called pastors and these so-called ministries, while we getting our heads all messed up, these cats laying plans, man, and they carrying out their plans. Let me bring it to you this way. The civil rights movement, unofficial, started around 1954 with the Brown versus Board of Education decision from the Supreme Court. After that, they started enforcing the law in terms of making the schools integrated. If you recall, if you have any sense of history, you may not, hopefully you do, but you had the Little Rock Nine. Y'all ever heard of the Little Rock Nine? Talk to me now. You ever heard of the Little Rock Nine? Do you know who the Little Rock Nine is? Or you so messed up in your head you can't even recall what the Little Rock Nine is? Can't talk to me now. The Little Rock Nine were 9 kids in Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock, Arkansas, 1957. Okay, look it up. Very important history. And because of the Brown versus Board of Education decision, the government was going to force the all Caucasian school to accept these 9 black kids into their school. Okay, there was a high school, Little Rock High School, Little Rock, Arkansas, 1957, the Little Rock Nine. That's what they called it. And the boy, they was giving them kids, as you can imagine, hard time. Look it up on YouTube. It's probably out there on YouTube. They were giving them kids hard, spitting on them, kicking them. The people, other brothers that would come out there support, hitting them with bricks and stuff. It was ugly. It was ugly. And from that point, you had the civil rights movement where people started marching and demanding equal rights. Okay. They being economists, did a study. Okay, because the civil rights movement started, then you had the 1964 Civil Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act. You had all of these things. So that now, what changed? What really changed is black people can now go and eat in the same restaurants as a Caucasian person. Black people can buy a house in the same neighborhoods, theoretically, as a Caucasian person. Black people can't be discriminated against when they want to rent an apartment in a neighborhood that's mostly Caucasian, right? Right? Because all that was happening before. Black people should be able to get a job in the same companies that Caucasian people work in, right? Right? Is that true? That's what came out of that. And most of all, black people are allowed to vote. They couldn't do it before. All that came out of the civil rights movement, right? So you look at it now. That was 1965, okay? Listen carefully now. Watch now. Thank you, Sister Grace. Watch now. 1965. Now, go 50 years. We're now 2018. 53 years in the future now. Here we are. What really has changed? So now, black people are allowed to vote, but they've redistricted the states so that your vote don't mean anything anymore, okay? Black people still make 30% less than their Caucasian counterparts with the same education and work experience. Same thing. Oh yeah, you can buy a house in a Caucasian neighborhood. That's if you can afford it. That's if you can afford it, right? Isn't that true? Right? You technically could go buy it. That's if you can afford it. You could go in the same restaurant and buy the same food. There's no problem. They don't have no problem taking your money. They might write nigger on the receipt or something, but they don't have no problem taking your money. But in terms of wages and in terms of getting ahead, we are actually making when they took the monies that the average monies that a black family's making now, with the average money they made in 1965, with when they adjusted for inflation, they're making more in 1965 than they're making now. Okay, more black people in jail now than they were in 1965. Way more, like way more, like 3 times more. Okay. So what really happened then? What was the point of the civil rights movement? What was the point of it? Let me tell you. At that time, if you're watching history, at that time, there was a power struggle going on between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was called the Cold War. Have you ever heard of the Cold War? Have y'all ever heard of it? It was a power struggle going on for world dominion between the United States and the Soviet Union. They called it the Cold War. And so what they were doing was trying to vie for power, for influence with the world. Rome was running both of them. But they were trying to get power and influence over all the rest of the nations of the earth. Whereas the Soviet Union was trying to prove that the United States capitalistic system was going to fail, and the United States was going to prove that the Soviet Union's communist system was going to fail. So what they were trying to do was gain favor with the rest of the earth, like China, gain favor with China and with India, with South American continent, with Australia. They were trying to get favor. So the Soviet Union would play these videos of black people getting hung and getting bit by dogs and telling all the people, see, this is how capitalists treat their citizens, right? So the United States had to counteract that. So what did they do? They funded the civil rights movement. And they made it look like we are equal. But now that that's over, and now the corporations like Coca-Cola, Verizon, Pepsi, right? All these large banks, Bank of America and all, now they can go in every country, and they got places in all the countries now, and they control all of these nations now. Now they don't need us anymore. Now they back to shooting us in the street, throwing us in jail, second-class citizenship all over again. And Rome was behind it all, because Rome decided, oh, we like the United States better. Well, prophecy said they would. So now we'll let the Soviet Union collapse, which is exactly what they did. They let the Soviet Union collapse. Soviet went down there, tried to fight against them Afghanistan, the Afghanistani Muslims down there in the mountains of Afghanistan, and got their tails beat. Russian soldiers walking off the field of war, running. They ain't want nothing to do with them boys up there in them hills, because that's why, because the Federal Reserves pulled the money from Russia, and they couldn't finance the war anymore. They chose the United States. That's why the civil rights movement. It was us being used as pawns again. That's all that was about. Us being used as pawns. And Malcolm X said it. That's why they killed him. Malcolm X was saying that we were just being used. And that's exactly what they did. And when Martin Luther King started waking up to it, because they paid Martin Luther King, the Caucasian people in power paid Martin Luther King. And when he started waking up and started speaking up, they killed him. See? So it's all a game, brothers and sisters. And Rome is at the top of this pyramid, and they are controlling all this stuff. Just like the Bible says, it says they shall devour the whole earth. It's through the corporate structure, it's through the military power, and most of all, it's through the religion that they control everything. You think where these Muslims, so-called Muslim terrorists come out of nowhere? These people are funded, man. They're funded. The ones in Africa are funded on both sides of Africa. The ones that the boogeyman they're making up now in Syria, they're all funded by the same people. You think Republicans and Democrats are different? They're the same people. Don't fall for it, brothers and sisters. They're the same people. Divide and conquer. That's what they've been doing. And why wouldn't they keep doing it? Because it works. You might as well keep doing it. You even got, like within Christianity, divide and conquer, all these different denominations. That's why they created the ecumenical movement, to try to bring them all together under the banner of Rome. And that's why you see iron mixed with clay. That's why you see iron mixed with clay. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That's why you got iron mixed with clay. Okay? So, brothers and sisters, we are seeing everything the Bible is teaching us. We are seeing it very plainly. But let me show you something, because we skipped a section of chapter 7 of Daniel purposely. I wanted to bring it back because I want to show you now. Before we continue, let me just review a second. I just want to ask you all some questions in review, just to make sure you know where we at, because we're covering a lot. All right, here's your question. All right, I'm gonna give you a quiz question. Here's your quiz question. Are you ready? Testing 1, 2, 3. I'll make sure you can hear it. Here's your quiz question. I want to make sure you're on point. Okay. Before we started this study in Revelation, we had studied Deuteronomy. Okay. We studied the whole book of Deuteronomy, the book of the law. This is a quiz question. After we studied Deuteronomy and before we started in Revelation, there's a subject we touched on before we got into Revelation. What was the subject? After we studied Deuteronomy and before we got into Revelation, we touched on this subject that I told you was very important in our understanding of the book of Revelation. We needed to study this subject. What subject was it? What subject did we study before we started Revelation? We did justification by faith. That's right, Brother Jeffrey. And there's another, that's right, the holy place. Talk to me. What about the holy place? What is that called? Where is it? That holy place that you're talking about, Sister Grace? That's right. And we studied justification by faith, and we studied with justification by faith, we studied the sanctuary. Did we not? We studied the sanctuary in heaven. Didn't we study the sanctuary? And we studied why Messiah is the high priest and how he's trying to use that high priestly ministry to take sin off of his people. Didn't we study that? Didn't we study that? Very good. I'll give you a pass on that, because that's exactly what we did. That's right. We studied the justification by faith message as it relates to the sanctuary. Okay. Now, the sanctuary we talked about has to do with us overcoming all our sin. Remember now, the Messiah is our high priest in the heavenly sanctuary. And as our high priest, his function is to cause us to take all the sin off of us and replace it with the Father's righteousness. Remember now, we're borrowing our Father's righteousness until he grants it to us, right? Until he grants it to us. The same time, the people who are not having their sins forgiven are going to be condemned, right? So the people who sins, we're having our sins forgiven. We're having the coat of righteousness put on us. But what about the people who obey not the Messiah's message? What about the people who don't surrender to the Father? What about those people that are following all of these other religions that are controlled by Rome? What about them? They're going to be condemned to death. Exactly. They're condemned. Now, that is what Daniel is going to show us. Now, the people that are in the book of life are a representation of the citizens of the Messiah's kingdom. You follow me? The people remember what it says, whoever's name was not written in the book of life was found in the lake of fire, right? So let's take a look at that. Revelation chapter 20. We're going to talk more about the book of life right now, and as we study Revelation, after we finish Daniel and go depth into Revelation, notice again Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20. I'm going to start at verse 12 and read down to verse 15. Revelation chapter 20 from 12 to 15. Notice what it says. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Yahweh. And notice the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell, excuse me, were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Okay. So it says there's a book, which is the book of life, and then there's books. And every man has a book that represents all your works. I just drank some and I got to get some more, but it's all right. Thank you, Batama. She's always looking out for me. She is. She's like my mother. She's always looking out for me, Batama. Praise the Most High. Yeah. Okay. So now she's better than mother. Anyway. So what was I saying? Okay, so there's books. Every individual, all of us. Remember what Messiah said, every idle word that men shall speak, he shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment, right? All of us have a book where all of our works are in the book. Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought, and every motive behind those things are written in your book. Okay? Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought about doing, and every motive behind everything you did are in those in your book. Everything. That's why it says the books were open and another book was open, which is the book of life. The saints are written in the book of life. When you become part of the nation through Messiah's blood, when you give your life over to your Creator to obey his covenant by faith, and he takes his coat of righteousness and puts it on you. Now you're written in the book of life, and all your evil deeds are washed away in the blood of the Mashiach Yahushua. That's the only way we can get into the kingdom. That's called justification by faith. So that now in your book, there's no evil deeds, no evil thoughts, nothing sinful at all, because Yahushua takes it all away from his people. Remember now, the sanctuary is being cleansed. So all of the sins that we have confessed up in the sanctuary, and they're taken from the sanctuary and put on the scapegoat. Notice again, 1 Corinthians chapter 4. 1 Corinthians chapter 4. From verse 1 down to verse 5. 1 Corinthians 4 from 1 to 5. Notice what it says. 1 Corinthians chapter 4 from verse 1 to verse 5. Notice what it said. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Messiah and stewards of the mystery of Yahweh. Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. But with me, it is a very small thing that I should be judged of you or of man's judgment. Yea, I judge not mine own self. For I know nothing by myself, yet am I not hereby justified. But he that judges me is Yahweh. Therefore, judge nothing before the time, until Yahweh shall come, who both will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts. Then shall every man have praise of Yahweh. So he is going to make manifest the motives, even everything that you did, plus the reasons behind it, whether it was a sinful, selfish reason or whether you had good reason. It's going to be written, because why? They know all hearts. They know all the hearts. That's right. So there's going to be a judgment where everybody that has died is going to call back to life. Notice what it said. It said the sea gave up the dead which was in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead that was in them. So aside from the destruction of the heathen that's going to come at the end of the 1,000 years, there's going to be a judgment where all the heathen are going to be brought back to face judgment. And they're going to be judged based on what's written in their books. And that's why if you're not written in the book of life, they're going to go through your book and you're going to understand exactly why you cannot come into the kingdom. And then they're going to put you in the lake of fire and you won't exist anymore forever. You will cease to exist. Okay? And that's why there's going to be no more any sign that sin ever existed on this earth except in the body of the Messiah, in his hands and his feet and his head and his side. Those wounds are always going to be there. And we're going to be reminded by those wounds of what our salvation cost. Okay? But aside from him himself, there'll be no sign on the earth that the sinners ever existed here. There'll be no sign that there was ever a devil or that there was ever any 5-year-old little girls that got raped. There'll be no sign of any of that anywhere. It's going to all be in the lake of fire. Okay? So that brings us back to Daniel chapter 7, because Daniel 7 shows two things. In this section we're getting ready to read, it's going to show us the judgment of the earth, and it's going to show us Messiah receiving his kingdom, which is also Revelation chapter 5. But we're not going to do Revelation chapter 5 today. I'm just going to stick with Daniel 7. When we do Revelation 5, we're going to end up coming back to Daniel 7 again. Okay? Just letting you all know that. But let's read Daniel chapter 7. It's the part that we skipped. I'm going to start where we left off earlier in Daniel chapter 7 from verse 8. And I'm going to read from verse 8, and I'm going to read down to verse 16. Actually, from verse 8 to verse 14. Daniel 7, 8 to 14. Thank you, Isha. Notice what it says. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld, till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. And a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And the judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. And I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion and his everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Let's take a look at this now. So you see a fiery flame. You see the Father. He said, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, the Ancient of Days sat. Now that's the Father. The Ancient of Days is the Father. He is above all. He is the one that we all worship. He is the one that Messiah worships. He says he's my God and your God. That's what Messiah called him. That's the Ancient of Days. Okay? His garment was white as snow, hair of his head like the pure wool. Ooh, the Father got woolly hair. What people on the earth have woolly hair? Never mind. Let's continue. The hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So wait a second. Out of his throne comes burning fire. This is the Father. This is the Creator. This is above all, the Most High. Now, you're going to notice if you look at Revelation chapter 4, which we're not going to do today, he has flames issuing from his throne, and they call it the seven spirits of Yahweh. That's what he's talking about here. It's the same thing. He said from his throne, he said his throne was a fiery flame and the wheels is burning fire. Okay? Seven spirits. And he said a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands minutes. See, the fiery flame, the fiery stream is a representative of the seven spirits that are before his throne. Right? John said, grace and peace from Yah the Father and the Lord Messiah Yahushua, and from the seven spirits that are before his throne. Yeah, so it's the same thing right here. Then he said the books, the judgment was set, and books, plural, the books were open. That is everybody's book. And he saw how Rome and everything associated with Rome was condemned and destroyed and given to the burning flame. Right? And then he mentioned the rest of the beasts, He said they had their dominion taken away, but their lives are prolonged. That's what we're talking about. So Rome is the thing that's in charge, but the lives of the other kingdoms, Babylon, Media, Persia, and Greece, are prolonged as long as Rome is around, because Rome is a compilation of all of their kingdoms. Okay? Then it said that one like the Son of Man came with the clouds to the Ancient of Days. Now, if the Ancient of Days is the Father, who is the Son of Man that's coming with the clouds? Who is the Son of Man that comes to the Ancient of Days with the clouds? In Daniel chapter 7. That is the Messiah. That's exactly right. That is Messiah. That is Mikael. That is Yahweh Shai, who's going to have a new name when we get to the kingdom. That's him. So he comes to the Father and he receives something from the Father. It says there was something given to him. What was given to him? It says there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. So you see here was giving him a kingdom. In Revelation chapter 5 was giving him a little book. That's right. It was giving him a book with 7 seals. It's the same thing. The kingdom is contained in the book because the book is a representation of the book of life, which contains the names of all the saints that are representative of his kingdom. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? So his Bible says, whoever was not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. There's going to be nobody on the earth in the kingdom whose name was not written in the book of life. If you're going to be in the kingdom, your name has got to be written in the book of life. Otherwise, you're not in the kingdom. So Messiah is receiving the kingdom from the Father, which is representative of the people that make up his nations, his people, his book, the book of life. Okay. Everybody got me so far? Okay, so that is why Daniel 7 goes with Revelation 4 and 5, and we'll go into Revelation 4 and 5. That is why the fourth beast is different from the rest, because it's religious as well as governmental and military. That is why now you see why the black man is the most hated and attacked man on the planet Earth. That is why they got everybody hating him. You got the government hates him. You got the people hating him. You even got his own women hating him. He is the most attacked man on the history of this planet because Rome hates him. You know why Rome hates him? Because Asatan that controls Rome knows who that man really is. See? We stuff just waking up as to who he is. But Rome knows who he is. And Asatan for sure knows who he is. So in order to keep the nation from rising, you must destroy the males. Isn't that what Egypt did? When they say destroy all the males, if it's a woman, keep it. If it's a man, throw it in the river. Isn't that what he said? Destroy all the males. See, they even want to turn the black women against the black man. That's what they're trying to do. That's what this whole women's rights movement is about. Don't get caught. See, brothers and sisters, just like the civil rights movement had a purpose that wasn't what you thought it was, the women's rights movement has a purpose. Think about the women's rights movement for a second. Think about this. This Ashkenazi woman, Gloria Steinem, she started the modern women's rights movement. What is it called? National Organization for Women or something like that. She started that. Now, prior to this, you had the women's suffrage movement where they was trying to get the right to vote. Well, that's cool. They should have the right to vote. But this women's national organization for women, they want more than just the right to vote. Well, who are they fighting against? Are they fighting against the black man? No, the black man doesn't control no Caucasian woman, not on a national scale. Well, who are they fighting about? They fighting against the black woman? No, the black woman don't control no Caucasian woman. Well, who are they fighting against? They're fighting against the Caucasian male. Well, can they win against the Caucasian male? No. So what's the real fight then? You getting the Caucasian males fight. Well, the black woman can't fight no Caucasian male. She's not going to win against no Caucasian male. So what's the deal then? They're joining forces. The Caucasian woman, the black woman, and the Caucasian man against the black man. All of them joining forces to destroy the black man. They don't even realize what they're doing. I'm not saying they're consciously doing this. They don't know what they're doing. They're being manipulated. See, brothers and sisters, if it's not according to the covenant of Yah, it's according to man. And if it's according to man, believe it. It's deception and manipulation. That's as simple as that. I can't make it any more simple. If it's not according to the covenant of Yah, it's according to man. And if it's by man, it's all about deception and manipulation. That's all it's about. Okay? And it's for the destruction of Israel. It's for the destruction of the nation. You understand? Yes, right. So, brothers and sisters, our salvation is not in marches, is not in taking up guns. Our salvation is not in voting. Our salvation is in the word of Yah and his spirit of righteousness. Our salvation is in the covenant and Messiah, who is the living covenant. It is not in Christian churches. It is not in any of these religions. It's in the Most High Yah himself. And for us to recognize, you see, everything that's going on earth is to confuse, to bring confusion, to bring confusion. That's what it's for, to bring confusion. Okay? But the word makes things plain. That's why there's such an attack on the Bible. There's an attack on the word. There's an attack on the Messiah. They're changing his image. They're changing who he is. They're making him into, there's a huge attack on the Most High, on his son, on his truth. Huge attack. And it's been going on now for 6,000 years on the planet. And it's coming to a close. And now the intensity level of the war is increasing at an all-time high, as we've said it before. It's increasing at an all-time high. And people are awakening, and at the same time, deception is also increasing, and people are getting more and more drunk with the deception and the things of this earth, as opposed to the truth of the word of the Most High Yah. And people are getting caught up in man's glory instead of the glory of the Father and of the Creator alone. Okay? Brothers and sisters, let us not get caught up in these things. Let us continue to seek our Father in heaven, to bring glory and honor to his name by obedience to the covenant. Let us continue to seek his righteousness through the Messiah Yahushua, by whom we obtain perfect righteousness and we obtain the power to be obedient to the covenant. Praise the Most High Yah. Let us do this continually until the day we're standing on the sea of glass singing the song of Moses and the Lamb. Until the day we come back to this earth after 1,000 years to destroy all the sinners. To the day when they go, when all the sinners are, the books are open, and the sinners that would not repent of their sin, that would not receive Messiah, are tossed into the lake of fire with the devil and his angels, never to be heard from again. Until that day, let us stay faithful. Let us stay faithful to the word. Let us stay faithful to the truth. Follow the truth, brothers and sisters. Ox and Akah, scattered nation of Israel, scattered nation, blessed by the Most High. Follow the truth. Stay faithful. And the Most High will bless us. He will keep us. He will guide us, as he said. He will keep us from falling. Praise the Most High Yah. Let's have a word of prayer.